Hi, my name is RWalker, and this is my heuristic analysis of the Cell Atlas application. So this application is put out by a company called Cellavision. They're a medical device manufacturer. They mostly do diagnostic equipment for hematology that's used in the clinical laboratory. What their product does is they automate the process of doing a manual differential, which is cell identification and counting that's performed under the microscope. It's typically done by a trained medical laboratory scientist, which is either a 2 or a 4-year degree. So by having an automated process, it streamlines some of the lab work that can be done. But the Cell Atlas application is provided by the company. It's geared towards diagnosticians, and what it does is it provides some mini lectures, examples of cells, and then there's a quiz. There's also a blog where community members can interact with each other. And if you want to take a look, this is the website. The app is available on iPhone as well as Android. I reviewed the Android one for this presentation, but I also downloaded it on iPhone, and they look exactly the same. So I'm going to use Nielsen's heuristics, and this is a brief overview of the 10 items that we'll go through in this presentation. So on the application, this is just a brief overview. You get a home screen that shows you the atlas, the quiz, the blog, videos, and info. And one of the things I thought was nice is when it rotated, it showed you the 2 most popular features and then the other 3 on the side, so that was kind of nice. So your sections are Cell Atlas, and this will give you a list of different types of cells that you might want to look at. And then within the quiz, if you have never taken the quiz before, it will just show as blank, and then once you take it, it will give you your results. The other sections in here are very brief info. There are videos which are done through YouTube, and then there's also a blog, and there's a ton of blog content. This is really nice. Users can interact, they can post case studies, and ask a bunch of questions. So the first thing I looked at is visibility of system status, and I think this app does a really good job of telling you what you're looking at and the status of the app. So there's a very brief color change when a button is clicked. You can see that up there on Pro Erythroblast has been clicked. And then it's really obvious which drop-down menu is open. You can see these up and down buttons here. And there's also a scroll bar that shows you when there's additional side content. So you can see here in the gallery, there's a little scroll bar that says there are additional photos to look at. The quiz has a countdown timer and a time status bar, and the quiz will indicate correct and incorrect answers. And so here's your timer and your countdown, and that's an incorrect answer, and there's a correct answer. Additionally, it will tell you within the YouTube portion for videos, as well as the blog, that you're offline. And so these are what those screens look like. This is the blog, this is YouTube for the videos. But the Cell Atlas content itself is still available when you're offline, so you can look at all of the photos and still do your quizzes. Then the next thing I looked at is the match between system and real world. So cell names are standard industry terms. These are used all around the world. The descriptions are nice because they use some lay terms, and they also use scientific technology. So here it will tell you for the hypergranulated neutrophil that has coarse and purple stained primary granules, and they use the term azurophilic, which is the way that these particular granules absorb dye within the cells. And then the photos appear the same way that they would under a microscope. This is exactly what they look like if you're doing a manual differential. And then videos use YouTube platform, so that's really easy to navigate through. And here you can take a look at what the YouTube page looks like. I did find one issue with this. While I was using this app, I changed my phone settings from a regular mode into a blue light filter mode. And so you can see on the bottom, this is an eosinophil, and it specifically is supposed to have these brightly pink or orange colored granules within it. Once you put the blue light filter on, they are a little bit harder to see. So some of those details may not be as obvious. I think this is a cosmetic issue, so I graded it as a severity 1. The cell appearance is different. I don't think it's substantial enough to cause somebody to misidentify it. Um, they might miss it on their quiz, which is not a big deal. This is not a clinical use item. One thing you could do to fix this is force the app to remove the blue light filter when you're using it. So for example, every time I pull up my boarding pass when I'm using it to get on the airplane, it removes all of my filters and it turns my brightness up to high. So maybe that's something that this app could do to get rid of that filter issue if the user has the filter on. Okay, so moving on to user control and freedom. I think the back button is really clearly marked. You can see it up there on the top left. If the wrong drop-down menu is tapped, if the user has fat fingers or whatever, you can easily choose the correct one. You don't have to close it and then open the other one. You just click the one that you want and it will open it. So here you can see, just click that other drop-down menu. My second issue that I found with this app is when I was looking in the quiz settings, you can't extend the quiz time. You also can't select a certain type of cell to focus on. So like if you only want to look at erythrocytes, which are red blood cells, you can't filter the quiz for that. You also can't extend your time or remove the timing. I think this would be really hard maybe for somebody who is a new tech, or if maybe English is not their first language. So because the quiz timing is really, really fast, I think that it would be really nice to have ability to extend that or to filter the quiz. One thing the quiz does do is it will not quiz you on things that you have not looked at in the app, which I thought was pretty cool. As I was going through, I realized, oh, it's adding in these other things because I have started looking at these other sections of the content. I graded this as a severity 3. I think that the quiz is a pretty important part of the application, that users want to review the content and test their own knowledge. And it was really frustrating to go through the quiz and feel like I ran out of time, especially with my first couple of uses. So I think it would be nice to have extended quiz time, or if you want to focus on a particular area of cell types, maybe you could have a checklist of these are the things that I want to look at, or maybe don't want to look at for whatever reason. Okay, so consistency and standards. My animation got weird there, sorry. It uses standard icons. It has back button, drop down close. It's got an eye for your information section. You can see that up there. And then the quizzes use a graded color scheme. So red ones are incorrect or not answered. And then it will sort of give you this gradient color of green to indicate whether it was correct on the first, second, or third attempt. So you can see that big yellow blob was 3 attempts. The bright green ones are right on the first attempt. And here you can see some of these different colors, and that's the unanswered ones. So within the consistency and standards, as I was looking through the cell menu, I don't know why I use this weird little atom icon. So I think maybe it could use an icon like it's a representative cell for each category type. So here you could use like a nucleated red blood cell to indicate that these are immature cells, or you could use a white blood cell if you're looking at the leukocyte section. Again, I think this is cosmetic. The icon doesn't make sense within the context of the app, but it doesn't impact my ability to understand the app or use it or understand the content. It's just a little, I think it was a weird choice. Error prevention. So I didn't really find anything for this. There's a subscription to the blog that will require confirmation through your email account, and there's an admin review of anything that you post online. So I guess if you posted something really weird, the admin would kick it back at you. But I didn't find anything with this section. Recognition rather than recall. So here, there are some small text areas and photos. They show all of the relevant content. So here, we're looking at a monocyte. It gives you everything that you need to know. It's on a single page. You can scroll through the photos, but it's just a really limited concise amount of information. And then if you click on the photos at the bottom there, it will show you an enlarged view. So this is one of the monocyte pictures that's within that cell view. My fourth issue with this app is when I was going through this cell menu for recognition rather than recall, I think it would be really nice to see a brief cell summary on the enlarged photo. And here, okay, so this is the enlarged photo of the monocyte. And then this is the short description from the previous screen, which you would have to back out and go look at this. And I think what it would be really nice here is it's telling you, okay, I don't really need to know the size on the enlarged view, but it would be nice if it told me, this is a good example of the kidney-shaped nucleus. This is a nice example of the chromatin arrangement. This has a lot of vacuoles that you would want to look at. And so maybe just those heavy hitters could be put on this monocyte screen, again, for new people who are trying to look at why this cell was chosen as one to start looking at. I think it would be nice to see that. Flexibility and efficiency of use. The blog contains a ton of content for casual and advanced users. There's an archive going back the whole way to 2011. And then the other thing that's really cool is they do these case studies, and these are uploaded by users. So here, for example, you can see this cell case 27. You can see these very abnormal looking big, huge cells. And so they give a little bit of background about the patient information. It's all de-identified, so there's no HIPAA issues here, but it will show you the stuff. And then there are areas where it requires user input here to subscribe, and then it'll show you the diagnosis for that cell case. You can respond to any of these things. You can ask questions. You can upload your own case study, and you can have a discussion within the comments of the case study. So it's kind of a nice learning tool there. Aesthetic and minimalist design. I really like this app. I think it's really nice. It's very clean. There's very little clutter. The icons are nice. Font is really easy to read. With a nice color scheme. Blue is my favorite color, so I'm kind of partial to that. And then the basic information provided for each cell type is really nice and concise. It doesn't give you a whole lot of cluttered information. Like, that's it. Those are the basics. That's what you need to know. And then here, the photos are really clear. They're laid out in an organized manner. And so, for example, here, if you're looking over on the right side for these dolly bodies, it shows you one example at the top that's a really obvious one. The one on the bottom, it's right in the center. It's really, really pale blue, and it's hard to see. So I thought it was really nice that they gave you the arrow, and they gave you sort of a gradient. If you scroll through this one, it shows you the really obvious one first, and then it gets harder and harder to see. Error recovery. So it will tell you that you're offline in both the blog as well as YouTube. And again, sorry about my animation here, it got wacky. It gives you quiz feedback. And if you click on one of them, so I touched this one that I got wrong 3 times, and it highlights it in blue, it tells me what the actual thing was. So this is an eosinophil, which is one of the cells that we looked at earlier. And if I click on where it says eosinophil granulocyte, it will actually take me back to that lesson content so that I can re-review the ones that I got wrong, and that's kind of a nice feature. I did find one issue, which is when I'm playing the quiz results are showed in these different shades of red and green, and there's a really cool website that will let you do a color blindness simulator. It will tell you what this would look like to a red-green colorblind person, and it is really hard to differentiate. I put this as minor because colorblindness is actually a deferral. Some hospitals will not hire colorblind techs. A lot of the stuff that you're doing is based on color change reactions, and so I know I was in the military as a lab tech, and they will not take you if you're colorblind, and they give you a colorblind test, and that's usually a standard part of a lab tech job application. And again, just to show you why this is, if you take a look, again, this is our eosinophil that's got these bright pink granules. If you look at the one on the right, which is, again, through that color blindness filter, they look purple, and you could misidentify that cell type if you are colorblind. It's not a function of the app, but this is kind of why, this is my rationale for saying this is a minor issue. I do think within the quiz, it could show you a bar chart instead of the pie chart and maybe show you the number that you got correct versus 1, 2, or 3 incorrect tries. Help and documentation. There's a menu on the left-hand side of this that will show you there's a user club, and that's actually for the cell vision users for the equipment itself. There's an info section. It's on the main page. It's also on this page. And then there's a contact option here. One of the things I didn't like is there isn't really an obvious help and documentation section. I couldn't tell which version of the app I had installed, but you can contact the company. You can find version information within your actual phone, and you can submit questions online into the blog section. I do think it would be nice to have the help section, and I think if you wanted the software version information, it could go into the info screen. So this is my full report. Overall, I think this is a really nice app and was really happy with it. It was super easy to use. It was super easy to set up. It is geared towards professional lab techs, so if the information seems kind of high level, the anticipation is that people who are using this have already gone through some level of hematology training. So again, my issues are mostly cosmetic. There were a couple of minor ones, and then the major one, again, is allowing the users to customize some of that quiz content. So please let me know if you have questions about my review, and I hope that you enjoyed taking a look at this app because it was really fun to use. Thanks.